Thank you, Ronan. I hope it works well. Unfortunately, there's some disturbance noise in the background here in my office, but I hope it won't be too bad today. I will start to share my screen right away, and I'm really looking forward to this day. It's going to be awesome, and I will repeat it, what you just said, Ronan, that if anyone wants to join our physical event, you can. Exactly. Let's see. So I'm going to share my screen now. And hopefully you can see the presentation. Yay. So today I'm going to in right away, and I'm really hang on. All right, so let's go. So RebelMetrics is our platform for data visualizations on top of Matomo, and dashboards with superpowers for Matomo is what I choose to call this one. First, a little bit about me. I'm a Chief Product Officer at Digitalist Cloud, and we provide services, Matomo SaaS services, dedicated for the public sector and the high requirements of security and performance that many of them have. Of course, we are not limited to that. We deliver to many other clients as well. But my job is to be the product owner of services like Matomo SaaS and RebelMetrics, which I will tell you all about today. So why this is the agenda, of course. So why do we need a new tool? A little bit about how it works, the features, and then some demos. And I hope you will be able to ask some questions in the end so that we can get a good understanding of what the product does. So why do we need another tool? Well, simply because the data visualization within Matomo is not its strongest part. There are definitely great reporting and so on, but when it comes to that, and you can look at the Google world, for instance, you have Google Locker, Google Analytics in itself is not the tool, the complete tool set you need as a digital analyst. You need more tools to do the job for you, to present things nicely to your internal audience or a client or whatever work audience you have when you work with digital analytics. So this is why we decided to do this, since it didn't really exist in the Matomo context before. So first of all, well, Matomo, I must say, I really like the platform. So this is not about replacing Matomo or anything like that. Matomo is really great for data collection. I mean, we all know we probably sit in this conference, everyone, because of its privacy features and the ability when you use Matomo to really control your data. And I mean, this is great. It was built to replace Google Analytics, so it has a lot of great reports, and the metrics and measurements and dimensions are great. We also have this great marketplace where you can purchase plugins like the heat maps or A/B testing, etc. And I think that makes Matomo extra great, because you can really turn it into a platform to do a lot more than just collecting your simple web analytics data. We have the tag management since a couple of years back. This is really, I think, my expertise within Matomo, my personal expertise. And then, of course, it's open source. I mean, this is the key driver for why Matomo is so great from my perspective, because you can change it, you can contribute back to it, you can adopt it to your needs. And this is, of course, great. But there are, of course, limitations. And I think if you work with Matomo on larger sites, you will run into speed issues. So this is one of them, where you really where you really need a tool like RebelMetrics to ask questions on large data sets. Also, analyzing raw data is a bit limited. You have the visitors log, and you can like see individual actions, but that's about it. Doing explorative analysis is really hard. You can use the premium plugin custom reports to some extent, but it's really limited in comparison to what you can do in RebelMetrics, for instance. Yeah, we can talk about the dashboards in Matomo. They are functional, but they are definitely not what people expect coming from the Google world. So I guess this is the issue. Also, customization of data, and in particular, collected data. You can, of course, customize data before you send it to Matomo. You can do that with a tag manager or within your website, but customization of data after it's collected is not possible. And of course, sharing dashboards outside of your Matomo installation, things like that. So obviously, we need other tools if we need those kind of features. So also, like getting data out of Matomo is really simple. It's built API first, so you can basically click on any report and get that as a spreadsheet or as a JSON or XML or whatever, and you can get your page views report data really simple. That's great. It's also relatively simple to just visualize that data in other tools like Google Looker, Redash, or in Google Spreadsheets or on other spreadsheets where you can do graphs. So I mean, that's fairly simple. However, if you do that, if you're using Redash, I would say that Google Looker integration for Matomo is just a little bit putting lipstick on the pig, because you're still using the same data. You're still just fetching the page view report. You can add colors to it. You can't manipulate data in a big way, at least. You can only filter on existing columns. So you can filter on URL, or you can filter on or sort on different values that you already have in the page view report. But that's about it. So this is kind of the issue. Like, yeah, you might make the reports look a little more fancy if you're using the Google Looker integration, or if you're exporting it in different ways. So what are the options? Well, you can get data from Matomo in 3 ways, probably more, but these are the ones that I could think of. So the simple way is to use the API, as I told you about. You can click and get the data, and you can integrate it fairly simply if you have another tool, and there are plugins like the Google Looker integration pretty much uses the APIs to get its data. You could, of course, write your SQL queries and do joins of whatever data, and then build your application to visualize that. And that has simply no limitations. You can do anything by doing so. And then you have the data exports, where you can export data, and you can export raw data, or you can export table data. And that, of course, enables you to manipulate data, and it also potentially offers at least great speed if you put your data into a platform that is built for reading instead of Matomo's database that is a combination of read and write. So what are the limitations then? Well, the API is really limited. You can get the data from the reports that you have in Matomo, as I talked about, but it's a one-to-one export. So it's limited. You can't really do things that are not already in Matomo, unless you, of course, build custom reports and use the API to get those. You can do some customizations. Then you have the custom SQLs. I mean, that's complex and time-consuming, and you will definitely, in many cases, if you have a lot of data, might run into performance issues because you're querying an already heavily loaded database in many cases. And the challenge with the data exports in the other way is that you really need to maintain your own new data model. And it also means that you need to rebuild metrics and reports again, because if you're just exporting your raw data, you don't really have anything that will give you the page views or the visitors. You need to do those queries yourself on that export. And of course, rebuild your page view report or whatever. So it's not easy, even though it gives you great speeds. So that takes us to what RebelMetrics actually is, because what we're doing is that we're exporting data and we're building a new data model. It's very similar to the data model in Matomo, because we have the same fields, we have the same metrics, but we kind of have had to rebuild them since we're putting data into a flat database. It's kind of like a spreadsheet. But it offers great speed, awesome flexibility, and we can really solve the tricky questions that you can only dream of solving within Matomo. So it really saves you time as a web analyst with the tool, and we can do things that are not possible with Google Locker integration or anything else. So it took us about 3 years to do that, and the data model, of course, and rebuilding the metrics and rebuilding reports and creating dashboards has been a time-consuming job, and we're continuously improving it as well. So we're adding more reports and dashboards into the installation of our clients, and the clients can build their own dashboards and reports as well. So the technical part of it, the data flow. So currently we have a nightly job, so that we export data every night from Matomo into RebelMetrics. So that means that you don't have data from today. We already have the possibility to basically do it more often. We could possibly do it every hour, I think, or every 10 minutes. But as it is today, it's nightly. What we're doing there is that we have a quite complex SQL query that joins a lot of tables to enrich data, and then we store that. It's like a spreadsheet. It's a flat file enriched with data from Matomo, and we store it as a file, and then we import it to ClickHouse, which is another type of database with great reading speed in particular. And then we use Apache Superset, which is an open source product maintained under the Apache Foundation, and it's a huge open source project, quite similar to Matomo when it comes to contributors and community. So it's a live community, and it has really it's a great open source project in that sense that you have a lot of abstraction layers. You can really build your own product from it. We evaluated a lot of visualization tools before selecting Apache Superset. We evaluated, for instance, Redash, which I think many of you have used, which is a really nice platform to do things, but it has very limited adaptation possibilities. You don't have the same layers and sometimes complex modifications possibilities as you have in Apache Superset. But for us, it was like a must to have those options. Maybe a little bit more complex, but it gave us the opportunities to actually build our own product on top of it. So it has a database connection. You can connect it to ClickHouse, or you can connect it to other databases as well. We can also upload spreadsheets in our solution. So I can combine my own spreadsheet data with our Matomo data in it. So it's pretty great. And then we have something called the dataset, which is basically a virtual data model where I can see all my fields. So I can see the URL, the titles, the campaign names, and so on. But I can also create new fields. So I could create a new field that is a combination of the page title and the page URL. I don't know why I need that, but I could do it. So it really offers you the superpowers in modification. And then we can do SQL queries directly on top of this data set. And with those queries, we can then start to visualize things in charts, and the charts, which are the visualizations, I will show you this more in detail soon, will be put in dashboards. So this is basically the architecture of Superset and what we use to build the products.
Thomas, I just have one thing to say. The webcam, I think, is currently showing your arm rather than your face.
Okay,
just a tiny
is it better? But you still see my presentation, right?
Yeah. The presentation is really fine. No problem for this.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Ronan. My belly is not that attractive. My face is maybe not either, but probably a little better than my stomach at least. So thank you. Okay, so a little bit about the features here. We can, this I already told you, but we will look at it instead. So this is what our dashboard looks like, and the red square that I show you a little chart, and the chart is like a query we do on the data, so we can present events as a number, for instance. I will show you a little video of how it looks when you're creating a chart. So creating a chart is pretty simple. You select the data set, and then in this case, I selected to display it as a table. And then I can find all the columns. So this is a little bit like the custom reports in Matomo, but it's a lot more, it has a lot more powers. So in this case, I'm filtering by site ID, and then I'm just presenting that, and then I can add other filters. So I want to filter so that I only see blog posts. And the good thing here is that we don't need, like in Matomo, you need to do archiving. So if I would create this report in Matomo as a custom report, it would take a few hours for me to see the data, and I would only be able to create a report that shows data for the time period where I actually have raw data. So I would not be able to look at data. Usually you have a setting, the GDPR recommendations is 180 days or 6 months. So if I want to do that report for data from last year, I wouldn't be able to do that. But in Rebel, you would be able to do that. So it's a huge difference. And as you could see, it's fast and direct, and you pretty much have your report ready directly. So the next thing would be to, let's see, yeah, you can see it again. What would be to create a dashboard. And the dashboard is, as I said, combined of all these charts that we previously created. So I will show you a video of how you basically do a dashboard. So you can start from scratch, like I will do in this demo, and you give your dashboard a name. And then we have a pretty big library of ready-made charts. So you can search, but in this case, I'm just gonna use the page view table. You can drag and drop to resize it. And as you see, in this case, we have a search, and we added more fields or metrics to it than we did before. So it's pretty simple. And the cool thing and the big difference towards Matomo is that we can add filters to this. So every field or metric that we added to RebelMetrics, we can actually add as filter options to our users. So I can start to have a default value in this case. So in this case, it will only show me traffic from digitalist.se in this case. but I could add any filter, and then when I'm ready, I can publish the dashboard, and it will be available to the other users in here. And I can add more filters. So for instance, in this case, I think I'm gonna look at the channel. So, and that would mean that if I create this, anyone using this report can filter the report by, I just want to see data for users coming from websites traffic or campaign traffic, or as you see, it pretty much instantly updates the report. So it's super fast and it's super easy to really build custom reports. And then we have the layout features. We can drag and drop, as you see, new components, and we can add text. We can even add HTML to our report. So they are pretty nice. So you can add a description to your end user and then move it next to your tables and charts. So it really offers you the things you're missing in the Matomo dashboards. And the filtering is, of course, super powerful. And then we have the data sets. And that I will show you in a little live demo. So I'm gonna go to our data set. And in this case, I have uploaded spreadsheets. So this test data is actually a spreadsheet that I uploaded. So if I create a new chart, I would be able to do that. I also have a virtual data set, which is basically you can run a query. For instance, if I use my data set called Matomo, it will contain all websites from my Matomo instance. But maybe I just want to limit one data set to contain just one website, maybe for security reasons or whatever reasons I can come up with, or it could be anything basically. Then you could just create a new SQL query, and from that query, create a new data set and name it whatever you need to or want to. So that's a great feature. But let's look at the existing Matomo data set and what we can do there. So first of all, we have our metrics definitions. And I mentioned this before, but as you can see here, we're using and actually recreating what a visit is in this case, and how to calculate visit total time. But this also gives us the option to create new items. So I can create my own metrics. And one example that I've done several times for several clients is that, for instance, if you have a goal on your website that is important, you can start to create a KPI where you get the number, like percentage of visitors for the site that converted a certain goal. And as you can see, you're basically creating SQL queries here, so you can adopt it and do your own calculations. So it's really powerful. And when I create it in the data set, it will automatically be available in my charts, so I can start to play with it. I can also do calculated columns. So metrics are more the numbers, and then with the calculated columns, I think these are some nice examples. I created a column called URL part 1. So that will actually give me, if you have a domain or a URL structure with several layers, so you have the path number 1, and then you have the path number 2, and then path number 3. So you can actually get just the first part of the URL by using this column. So it's pretty powerful. Or just getting the file name out of a URL. So there are a lot of really powerful features. Another one we did was that we converted the location country into full name country codes, so you can make it more user friendly. Another thing that is quite common is that you, for instance, have custom dimensions containing it can be a number. For instance, if you're collecting data from your intranet, sometimes your organization unit might be just a number. With this feature, you could translate the numbers into something readable. So you could say 1 equals IT department, etc., etc. So you can really enrich and improve the data after it's being collected. You don't have to do it within Matomo. So it really offers us flexibility. So I will actually show you that little. I will create a new chart and give you the example with the. So I'm selecting Matomo here, and I will create a table report. And then the dimensions I mentioned that I want to use is that, let's see, we also created, so I can show you this. We have the full page URL, but as we're also having a dimension called page URL part, and then we have the one that I told you about, the URL part 1, for instance. So we can just see what those dimensions would look like. So in this case, we have a full URL. And as you see, the first part is ticket here. So this one contains the domain name. And then my next one, the page URL part, that only contains the actual path. And then the last one is just the first part. So as you can see, you can really build reports that are powerful. So in this case, I can just use page URL part and then add my page view metrics to see, okay, which part of my site get most page views. So just update it like that, and then it will tell me. And now, as you see, a lot of them don't have one, so I would need to filter out. We can do that. I can add a filter saying like if URL part is not null, and then I will probably, okay. Of course, I didn't get it right. I won't fix it now, but I need to write something to test that it contains data. It's not a null value, it's an empty string. That's why it didn't work out of the box. But you get the point. You can really do fancy stuff. We have some built-in reports. So one of them is the transitions report. I will try to, let's see. Show you, because the transitions report is a report in Matomo that is quite slow. So what we did was to recreate it in RebelMetrics. So it's a little bit hands-on right now. I need to manually change the filters, but what we're looking at right now is the transitions of the start page. So we can see that where people are coming from and moving to on the start page. And then we also added some charts down here to see, so where did people click and what events were fired on this page. But I can really just change it to another page and it will update directly. And I can also change it to look at another period, for instance, and it will be pretty fast and direct. So that's also one thing, as if you use the transitions report on a Matomo instance, you know that it's really slow. And particularly looking at the data range like this wouldn't be possible. So that's an example of what we can do with Matomo, or with RebelMetrics and Matomo data is the correct answer. All right, I'm going to stop there and open up for the costs, of course. So currently we only sell RebelMetrics as a package with Matomo. So the simple starting cost for the combined two products would be 4,498 crowns, roughly 400 euros with today's euro conversion. And that would include 100 actions per month. You can see that we can support large amounts of data. We've had over 300 million actions per month in our cluster, so we can grow it pretty much. But it grows with your data costs, and feel free to contact me. But what I want to tell you is that we are actually releasing RebelMetrics as a standalone product later this year, hopefully sometime after the summer. We're begin to test it. So it will actually work by that you're adding a plugin to your Matomo instance, and then you get a RebelMetrics instance in our cloud that you can start to use. So it will hopefully be really simple to get started with it. And roughly the costs for just running RebelMetrics will be 50% of these costs. So I would say from 200 euros per month, but the pricing is not ready for the standalone product, but just so you know. So please contact me if you're interested, because we definitely want to have some beta testers or early adopters to try our integration. The product in itself works really well, but we are definitely looking for people that want to try out the full integration. All right, so let's open up for questions. Ronan, did you collect anything from the YouTube channel?
Yes, Thomas. So first of all, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the quality of your conference, the slides. Well, I will say, so we open the floor to any questions. So anyone, just feel free to go within the chat and ask questions to Thomas. Of course, by my side, I always have questions. So as I haven't yet seen any questions in the chat about the conferences except mine, I'm going to give you my questions. And then I really hope that it will work as an appetizer for anyone to write questions to. Ready?
Yeah,
for questions,
I'm ready.
Thomas? Okay. So the first one that I have for you is like, so you show us as, let's say, an introduction that there is like 3 ways of getting data of Matomo. So the API, the database, and then you introduce us to the data export. And I wasn't sure. I had the feeling that it was more like the export of the MySQL database, but I'm not sure. Is it possible for you to come back on the explanation about the way you export data from Matomo, so what we call Matomo export or data export, and what you are doing specifically here? And so I'm sorry, it will be like saying again the thing, but I just would like to be sure.
I didn't say it before, so I think let's just Google and find the Matomo documentation. So this is not exactly what we're doing, but okay.
Currently, we are still seeing the slides name question. Okay, perfect. Yes.
Let's see. Oh, it's not this one. Yeah, let's see. I think it's this one. So basically, this is the starting point.
Okay.
This SQL query. But to be honest, our query is, I think we're up on 200 rows or something like that. Because we are joining to get all data. If you do this, you're basically getting the actions out of Matomo, but you're not getting any metadata from it. So this would give you an action table, and you could just do simple stuff. So what you need to do is to to start to enrich this data with, for instance, what is the title, what is the URL, what is the campaign, what is the site ID, etc., etc. You don't have everything, and a lot of them is not correctly mapped, so to speak. So it's about enriching this export. You could theoretically just do this and get started, but I mean, this is basically the product and what we're selling. It's, as I said, it took us 3 years to get to this point where we can actually present basically the same data, but better in RebelMetrics than it actually is in Matomo. Because, for instance, in Matomo, you probably notice that if you want to look at the visitor number, for instance, since we are looking at aggregated data, the visitor count will only be correct if you're looking at aggregated periods, so or the unique visitor count, that is. So, for instance, if you're looking at the date range, we can't really tell the unique number of visitors, but in this case we can. So it's really about what we can do with the data. One thing we also did that is quite cool is that you saw me present the transitions report. Mm-hmm. So one thing we are exporting to be able to do that is the previous URL. So for every action that we are collecting, for every page view we are collecting, we are actually storing the referrer as a column in itself. So that means that we can do that kind of reporting. So it's about enriching the data.
Okay, so just if I understood well, you mean like this given SQL query that we can see right now on your screen does not give us the visits log report that we can export from the API, and in fact your 200 lines as SQL queries is in fact of it getting very close to the visit log report from the API in order for you to get all the data properly formatted within your database that after you can use for all your mathematics. Am I correct, or am I totally wrong here?
So let's look at our data set. Okay. Basically, you can see this, all these columns. This is basically a spreadsheet of all the fields that our Excel generates, or our SQL query generates. So when we are running this query against Matomo, we are creating basically a flat. So we can actually do this.
Okay, I think I got it. I think what you did is like you created the perfect integration, so as Google Analytics is doing with Google Looker, in which people can just pick up, in fact, the metrics and the dimension that they want, rather than picking up a full report archived by Matomo. Am I correct?
Something like that.
Okay, so in fact, you recreated all the metrics one by one thanks to SQL queries that we couldn't get from the visit log report.
Something like that.
So it means that you spent months working on this given project in order to.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. That's for sure. So basically, this is the raw data, or the table that we have of fields, and as you can see, it's a flat table. So this is great because it gives us the superpowers to ask questions and filter on things. But it's also so this is the cool thing.
Okay, sorry, that's a question which may be a bit too private, but is there any plan for you commercially to afterward resell, let's say, this technology or this knowledge to other players out of Superset? I mean, like someone coming to you saying, okay, we need the same thing for Grafana or for any other, I don't know, any open source technology or any proprietary one? Is it the kind of services or consultancy that you could offer or that you will be ready, I don't know, to sell or whatever as a bundle package or expertise?
That's actually what we're, since, as I said, we're planning to release this as a service that you can integrate with any Matomo. To do that, we're actually forced to build this export into a plugin. So that means that we are thinking about at least releasing our data export as a plugin where you could export it to RebelMetrics, but that would actually give you the data to whatever database or visualization tool. If you already have a data lake in your company, you could get our enriched data export, but that would be definitely a premium plugin. That would be, but that's an option that we're thinking about. But we haven't decided yet.
Okay. Sorry, my English is not good enough, but what does a standalone offer means?
Sorry, yeah, it means that because today you can only get RebelMetrics if you buy Matomo from us. So that means that you can buy only the RebelMetrics SaaS service from us as a standalone product and integrate it if you have Matomo with another vendor or if you have it installed in your own data warehouse or your own servers. You could still use RebelMetrics, but from our cloud service. So that's the point that I mean that, and that's what we're going to release after the summer sometime. And we're looking for beta testers for that feature. So that's something you definitely can contact me if you want to be one of the first to test that integration and to get the superpowers of RebelMetrics.
Okay. So just to be sure, let's imagine that I'm a research center. I have an on-premise installation of Matomo because definitely keeping the data internally within my company is of paramount importance. I'm not satisfied with the way Matomo is visualizing the data within my dashboard. With this, let's say, hypothetical standalone offer, for a given price which has to be set, I install a plugin, and thanks to this plugin, I will access to, I will be able to send easily the data from Matomo with those SQL queries to any data warehouse that I have internally on premise as well. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's the idea that we're, as I said, we haven't decided if we're going to release it that way, but that's definitely an option that we're evaluating. Of course, we want to sell RebelMetrics primarily, but I know the need is big. But it also means that you need to support those people that want to do that. So it's also a question about that. But definitely something we might think of. But I would like, I'm going to talk about security in my next presentation, so we can talk about it a little bit, because I think we need to see a higher level of services in terms of security when it comes to Matomo and also things like this. So it's really about selecting vendors with high security standards to do so. And I think just putting it internally doesn't solve that question. But I think so that's a mentality thing that needs to be changed a bit.
Okay, is it? Sorry, I'm looking at the question. I don't see any coming, so I'm gonna try to keep you with some questions. So, but is this support coming from Superset typically? I mean, will it be Superset support or let's say Grafana support that you will need, or will it be more admin system security expert, or will it be more like Matomo community member who could help? I mean, how could the Matomo community help support you, or anyone support you in order to make this standalone offer possible, or is it growth internally that you need to have in order to recruit the right profiles?
I mean, to offer it as a standalone product is not really in our scope. We are a cloud provider, but we at the same time we really like the community, and as you know, we already contribute with a lot of plugins and things to the community. So we're definitely lovers of open source, but it's of course a mix. In this case. So what I'm saying is that we didn't decide whether we're going to release the export plugin as a standalone feature or not. I can't promise you that today. But I mean, it's definitely, if it's something that a lot of people would be interested in, we could definitely, I mean, it's all about, in the end, to be honest, it's about business. If people are willing to pay a subscription for it, definitely possible.
Okay. Thank you very much, Thomas. I'm looking if there are any questions left. Do you need 5-minute breaks, or I have another small question for you, but it's up to you. You decide.
You can go on if you want to.
Okay, that's a small one coming from myself as well. As you know, AI is getting more and more popular. Do you have any small integration or easy integration that you could add on top of it for Superset, in which it will analyze the data quicker? Or,
yeah. So not really. I can show you. Let's see where we have them. I haven't played that much with it. Let's just try one, because there are features in Superset where you can do some prediction.
Okay.
Let's see. So you have things like advanced analytics and predictive analytics. So you can actually enable forecasts. And to be honest, I haven't played that much with it, but it's already possible. It's not AI, but it's more mathematical predictive analytics. And I'm definitely, we're looking at AI. Since we're a SaaS company, we are looking into, and we're working a lot with like making sure data is not shared with third parties with outside of the European Union and so on. I mean, this is a must if you're working with the public sector. So everything stays in our data centers, and we are like building everything with 100% open source. So there are no calls to Google or Amazon or whatever in the bottom here. Everything is standalone. So that means that we're going to release hopefully similar things like ChatGPT, but with open models and things like that as a SaaS service. And that would definitely be possible to integrate into this. But I mean, the first step is I think, to get things like prediction and so on ready.
Okay. And how active is the Apache Superset community? I mean, are they releasing some new feature quite often, or?
I mean, it's the release cycle is a couple of times per year. There are larger releases and small fixes happens all the time. So it's pretty active, I would say. Okay. But I mean, Superset in itself, you need to see the difference here. That Superset is the tool we use. The RebelMetrics part is all the dashboards and all the charts that are dedicated to Matomo, and this is really this is what the difference between Superset and RebelMetrics is. If you're just installing Superset, it's an empty product. You need to create this data set that we already did for Matomo with all these fields and exports, and then you need to create all the charts. You need to figure out how to calculate a page view, how to calculate a bounce rate, etc., etc. So Superset would help you do that, but it takes time. So this is really, again, I'm pointing out that the point of having RebelMetrics is that you can get 3 years ahead of time in learning out of the box, and we can import your data pretty much directly, and you get started, and people can create their dashboards next week. This is the whole point.
Okay. I get it. I'm looking at the chat if there's new questions coming. The answer is no. And in 3 minutes, you have the next conference from you to handle. I suggest that we go for a tiny break of 2 minutes. I leave the stream on, just stay on the stage, and let's see each other in 3 minutes.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Thomas. See you in 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah.